Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, as most people know, today the Trump administration rescinded DACA. And DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program. It's a program that protects or shields young undocumented immigrants from deportation. This program affects 800,000 undocumented immigrants who are brought to the United States. So this is something that is very significant. And by rescinding it, that means that those children, people who came here illegally as children, now are potentially in jeopardy of being deported. And by making this or taking this action, the Trump administration has basically put the responsibility on Congress to pass laws either continuing DACA or replacing it with something similar to provide amnesty for children of illegal immigrants or to take other action. So now it's up to Congress. And we know the track record of Congress. Congress failed to act back during the Obama administration. And the Trump administration is making a couple of arguments. First of all, they're saying that there's a need for law and order. We have immigration laws in this country, and those laws should be followed. Also, they have emphasized the need to protect the United States borders. You can't have a nation if you're unable to protect the borders of that nation. They talked about the need to strengthen the rule of law. And they also made arguments saying that Obama basically acted outside of his authority by imposing this executive order, DACA. And the reason why they say that is because Congress was contemplating passing similar legislation, and Congress was unable to pass such legislation. So the president went ahead and acted on his own, and that's President Obama at the time, and established DACA. So the Trump administration is saying this is a matter for Congress to decide. It's not a matter for a president to decide. So that's part of the argument against DACA. And then some people are saying that this is a good thing because, for one, it discourages people from coming to this country illegally. And also it prevents people from resorting to what's called chain migration, where people have new opportunities for citizenship based on the status of their children. So those are some of the arguments that are being raised. And I want to just take out time right now to state my position on this issue, to briefly talk about why this is important to African Americans. So number one, when people think of these types of laws dealing with immigration, they primarily think of Latino immigrants. When the fact of the matter is, those are not the only people immigrating to this country. You have African immigrants. You have black immigrants from the Caribbean and from other places, from the so-called West Indies, coming to the United States. And many people who are now classified as African American have relatives from the West Indies. Their parents or grandparents came from the West Indies, so there are ties there. So a lot of these people that come here are African immigrants. So that's a connection that we have to this situation. Also, I mean, it's important to understand that America is a nation of immigrants. This nation consists of many different types of immigrants. You have African Americans who were not like technically immigrants. We were brought here as prisoners of war. We were brought here under slavery and all that kind of stuff. We were involuntarily brought to this country, but we're not from this country. Just like other groups of people are not indigenously from America. You have the Europeans who came here and conquered this country. They committed genocide against the native people. They killed off hundreds of thousands of people. They enslaved people. And after doing that, after conquering the land and killing all these people, committing genocide and all that kind of stuff, they want to pretend like this is their native land when in fact they have stolen this country from the native people, when in fact they have committed atrocities against the actual people that this land belongs to. But yet they want to pretend like this is solely their country when they took it by force, when they killed all these people. That's like somebody breaking in your house, and pretending like it's their house. That's the position of this white man. After committing these crimes, he wants to pretend like this is his. And then you have immigrants from all other places around the world, people from Asia, people from Africa, people from Latin America, etc. So this nation has always been a nation of immigrants. And a lot of these politicians who are so harsh on immigrants and all that kind of stuff, some of these people are children of immigrants. Some of these right-wing fanatics are children of immigrants, but yet they want to impose harsh conditions to make it difficult for people to come to this country, for people to become citizens in this country. So that's something that's very important to point out. Another point that has to be made on this whole issue is that children are innocent. Children do not choose who their parents are. They don't have control over their own affairs. Often children are brought to this country as illegal immigrants because of the actions of their parents. So it is just fundamentally wrong to punish innocent children for the actions of their parents. So for that reason, I oppose this decision to rescind DACA. Another thing that I want to point out is that these people keep saying, well, because of this program, people are losing jobs, because of DACA, people are losing jobs and wages are going down and stuff like that. So far, I haven't seen any kind of solid, concrete proof that that's the case. I haven't seen anything yet to prove that point. So that's what I'll say in response to that. But yeah, the bottom line is these children don't have any control over their situation. Many of these children, they came here. This is the only country they even know. Many of them don't even speak the language of their parents. They spent their entire life, for the most part, in the United States. This is their country as far as they know. They don't know the foreign lands that their parents came from. And many of these people are under dire situations. Some of these people are fleeing war zones. Some of these people are fleeing poverty. They're fleeing all kinds of conditions to come to a land of supposed opportunity. And a lot of the conditions that we see in the world that drive this immigration, this illegal immigration, has to do with American foreign policy. It has to do with Western foreign policy. The fact that these countries around the world are plundered of their resources by the West. They're reduced to poverty. And when the people seek out other opportunities, when they seek out prosperity and all that kind of stuff, when they're fleeing war zones that are created due to Western intervention, when they're fleeing these situations and coming back to those Western countries that are at least partly to blame for the conditions in those countries, all of a sudden those immigrants are condemned and all that kind of stuff, when it is in part due to U.S. foreign policy, Western foreign policy that drives this push towards illegal immigration. So that's something that has to be dealt with. Also, the reason why this thing is something that African Americans should be concerned about is because it's an opportunity for coalition building around mutual interests. This is a time for us to work with these different immigrant groups and develop a comprehensive, thorough understanding about how we can move forward in a coalition. Now, people who are familiar with the need to change public policy, people who understand the importance of electoral politics, they understand how important it is to build coalitions, to actually bring about change. There's a difference between someone talking all this rhetoric and someone actually making a difference in this world. In order to make a difference in the United States society, you need to have coalitions that can vote together, that can lobby together, that can protest together, that can affect change together. And one thing that we need to do is build coalitions around common interests and mutual respect. That's what we have to do. So if we advocate in support of DACA, we need to have immigrant groups advocate in favor of positions that serve the interests of the black community. They have to advocate and support our fight against police brutality. They have to advocate and support our fight for affirmative action or to protect affirmative action, our fight to protect voting rights, our fight for economic opportunity and equality. They have to support that struggle. They have to support the struggle for um, workers' rights and all these other issues that are very important to our community, education opportunities. So we have commonality there that we need to build upon. And we need to have a mutual understanding before we move forward in these coalitions. So that's one thing. I mean, we have a common interest, and that common interest is fighting this right wing Trump administration. This Trump administration, the same administration that doesn't give a damn about black people, the same administration that's trying to end affirmative action, the same administration that is trying to suppress the black vote, the same administration that is trying to justify police brutality and racial profiling and stuff like that. That's the same administration that's attacking these immigrant groups. It's the same administration that is attacking Muslim groups, that is promoting this Islamophobia, that is promoting this anti-immigrant sentiment, that is promoting an anti-woman agenda. So you have all these different groups that are adversely affected by the same common enemy. So it only makes sense for these groups to get together, to band together around mutual interests and fight the agenda of this administration. So I think that that's one reason why black people need to support this fight in support of DACA. And it's important to understand that when you boil this immigration issue down to its essence, what you will see is that at the heart of it, it is driven by this myth and lie of white supremacy. These people are motivated by fear. They fear a black planet, as Public Enemy said back in the day. They are in fear of a black planet. They are in fear of a brown America. That's what they fear. They fear the day when they will no longer be the majority in this country. They fear the fact that there are less white babies being born in American society than ever before. Now their numbers are going down. Hispanics and African Americans are going to be a majority in this country soon. And they fear that. They fear that. And they call that situation white genocide. So a lot of these people are driven by fear. And we have to remember that these hate mongers, these white supremacists, they form a huge part of the Trump coalition. They are part of Donald Trump's base. It is no coincidence that these people support this man. It is no coincidence that they are driven and motivated by his anti-immigrant rhetoric because it serves the interests of these white supremacists. They want these people, people of color out of this country. Just like they say, go back to Africa. They have the same mentality when it comes to Latinos. They want them to go back to Mexico. They want them to go back to wherever, as long as they are out of America, because they don't want America to become a brown and black country. That's the bottom line. That's what they mean when they're talking about make America great again. They're basically saying make America white again. That's what they're saying. And that's one of the reasons why this whole immigration issue is of so much importance to these people. That's why. That's why this rhetoric of building a wall is so important to these people. They want to build walls and divide people instead of uniting people because these people are motivated by hatred. And we have a moral obligation to stand up against this hatred, man. Because at the base of it is racism. And the same people that hate the Latinos hate African Americans. The same people that hate the Muslims hate African Americans. The same people that hate the Jews hate African Americans. The same people that want to restrict women's rights hate African Americans. So why don't we unite against our common enemy and work together as one? So tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.